She didn't even hear me enter. She was too busy whispering, "Please, not now." At the door, she was guarding with her whole body. Her fear wasn't fear of losing me. It was fear of being seen exactly as she was in that moment. And when a man inside murmured my name, low, intimate, unhurried, I finally understood who she'd really been opening her nights for. Before we go any further, if you're listening to this, tell me where you're watching from. Your voice helps these stories reach the people who carry the same kind of silence. She didn't hear me come in. Not the door. Not my footsteps. Not even the sound of my keys hitting the table the way they had every night for 20 years. Because she was too busy whispering, "Please, not now," to the door she was covering with her entire body as if she could seal the truth behind it with her spine alone. I stood in the dark entryway, dripping rainwater onto the floor watching her. Her shoulders trembled in a way that wasn't fear of me. It was fear of being seen exactly as she was in that moment. Fear of exposure. Fear of timing. Fear of the truth no longer having anywhere to hide. And then it came, the sound that opened every wound I didn't know I still had. A man's voice. Low, intimate, unhurried. "John!" He said my name like he'd rehearsed it. Like he'd whispered it in this house before. Like he was comfortable saying it behind my back, maybe. In the dark, maybe next to her, maybe while she was laughing into his chest. She spun around so violently that her heels scraped the hardwood floor. Her eyes widened, panic spilling out faster than breath. "John, you're home." I didn't answer. I just stepped closer, letting the hallway light reveal exactly what she didn't want illuminated. Her hair was slightly messy, the kind you fix after running your fingers through it too fast. Her blouse was buttoned wrong, one shift lower than the rest. And she kept one hand braced behind her, holding the doorknob, as if her life depended on it. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice low, steady. She swallowed. "John, please don't open this door." But she wasn't standing there to protect me. She was standing there to protect him. The air smelled wrong, the faint warmth of cologne I didn't own, the dry sweetness of red wine, and something else. The uncomfortable, unmistakable scent of recently shared breath. I glanced at the table. 2 half-full wine glasses. A bottle still open. Her wedding ring placed beside them, not on her hand. My throat tightened. "Who's in that room?" She shook her head too fast, too desperate. "No one." "John, please. Listen to me." Someone said my name. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She wasn't even trying to lie convincingly anymore. She was trying to delay, to stall, to control a disaster that had already escaped the boundaries she'd set. I stepped forward. She stepped backward. Her back hitting the door with a soft thud. "John, please," she whispered. "We don't have to do this tonight." "Do what?" Her eyes flickered guilt, fear, shame, all crowding together like they were fighting for space. Then suddenly, a deeper voice spoke again. Through the door, calmer this time, confident in a way that made my skin crawl. "Is he still out there?" Her breath shattered. I went numb, not angry, not shouting, just numb, like my body finally understood something my mind had refused to consider. I rested my hand on the doorknob. She lunged forward and grabbed my wrist, fingers digging in. "John, don't, please. Just don't."
Why?
Her face crumpled in a way that told me the truth wasn't new. It wasn't sudden. It wasn't tonight's mistake. It was a long road she'd been walking behind my back, a road she hoped I'd never catch her on. "I don't want you to see," she whispered. Her voice wasn't apologetic. It was resigned, as if she'd finally realized the hiding was over. Before I could answer, something vibrated on the counter. Her phone lit up. A message appeared. "He's home early. I can hide. Just stall him." My chest tightened, slowly, painfully, the way a wound deepens when fingers push inside it. She snatched the phone, turned it face down, but the damage was already done. I exhaled. "So that's what this is." She shook her head violently. "It's not, John. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think." I reached for the doorknob again. Her grip tightened, but it didn't matter. Her body couldn't stop what had already been decided. "John, please," she whispered again, voice cracking. "You don't deserve to see this." "That's the part I finally agree with," I said. The house was silent, except for him shifting inside the room, footsteps slow, unashamed. Then he spoke a third time, voice closer, as if he were leaning against the other side of the door. "Let me come out. He should know." My stomach twisted. Not because of what he said, but because of what she did when she heard it. She didn't move away from the door. She didn't deny anything. She didn't plead for him to stay silent. She whispered almost too softly to hear, "Not yet. Please, not yet." She was protecting him from me. And that was the moment the part of me that still believed in her finally died. I didn't open the door. Not yet. Not because she stopped me, she couldn't, but because I needed to understand exactly how far this had gone before I stepped into whatever waited behind that wood. She still had her hand on my wrist, but her grip had changed. It wasn't desperate anymore. It was pleading, fragile, almost protective, but not of me. And when a woman is more afraid of someone else losing what she has with him than she is afraid of losing her husband, the marriage is already over. Eddie. I gently pulled my arm away. Her hand slid off like it had no strength left. "Step aside," I said. Her lips trembled. "John, I can explain." "Then explain." She opened her mouth, but nothing came. Not even a lie. Something inside the room creaked, a floorboard bending under weight. He was moving, not hiding, not ashamed, just existing. In my house, with my wife, and comfortable enough to shift his stance while waiting to see what I would do next. I stared at the door and felt something sharp pull in my chest. Not rage, not heartbreak. Something colder, like reality, cutting through denial with the precision of a blade. I took a long breath. "Tell me how long this has been going on." She squeezed her eyes shut as if the answer itself burned. "John, please." "How long?" Her chin quivered. 3 months. The hallway swayed for a second. Just slightly, like the floor dropped half an inch beneath my feet. I didn't move. I didn't blink. But something inside me split cleanly down the center. 3 months. 90 nights. A whole season of my life where she loved someone else and still came home to sleep beside me like nothing was changing. My voice came out flatter than I expected. Did you invite him tonight? She didn't answer, which meant yes. Did you plan this knowing I'd be home late from the meeting? Still nothing. Yes again. Every silence felt like a confession. Every second she didn't deny anything carved another rib out of my chest. I stepped forward. Her back hit the door again. Move. No! And for the first time, she looked directly into my eyes. Not with love, not with regret, but with something. I will never forget determination. Determination to protect him. I'm not letting you open this door, she whispered. You'll only make this worse. For who, I asked. For all of us. That was the wrong answer, because there was no us anymore. Behind her, the doorknob turned half an inch, a slow, deliberate twist. He wanted out. He wasn't scared. He wasn't waiting for permission. He was waiting for timing. Don't, she hissed through the crack. Just stay inside, please. The tone she used, soft, urgent, intimate, was the tone she used to use with me when we were young and still believed in each other. She never spoke to me like that anymore. But she spoke to him that way, without thinking, without guilt. I felt something collapse quietly inside me. A small internal shift, like the moment a building gives up its structure before it falls. Who is he? I asked. Her nails dug into her palms. It doesn't matter. It matters to me. She shook her head. No, John. It matters to you because you think this is still something you can fix. But it isn't. Her words struck harder than anything the man behind the door could have done. Because she wasn't fighting for us. She wasn't defending a mistake. She was defending a decision. I took another step closer, now only inches away. Tell me who he is. Her eyes glistened, but not because she was hurt. Because she was exhausted. From hiding. From pretending. From building a life in shadows while still wearing the face of a wife. He's someone I shouldn't have let back in, she whispered. But I did, and I can't take that back. The honesty of it. The raw simplicity hit like a punch. She wasn't sugarcoating. She wasn't crafting a story to soften the blow. She was telling me the truth in the one moment she couldn't hide anymore. And somehow that hurt more than the betrayal itself. Inside the room, he exhaled loudly. Not the nervous exhale of someone caught, but the frustrated exhale of someone tired of waiting. Then he spoke again. Let me handle this. Handle. Not apologize. Not explain. Handle. Like the fallout of this infidelity was a chore he'd already prepared for. My jaw clenched. Open the door. No, she whispered. John, you don't understand. I understand enough. She shook her head, tears finally spilling. Not everything you find behind a door is meant for you to see. Then you shouldn't have opened it. For him, that broke something in her. I watched the words hit. Watched her flinch, the way people do when truth meets guilt. With perfect aim. Her voice cracked. John, I never meant to hurt you like this. I nodded slowly, letting the ache settle into something steadier. I know, but I reached for the doorknob anyway, not out of anger, but because the only thing worse than betrayal is the silence that follows it. She grabbed my wrist one last time, a trembling, weak attempt. But she wasn't fighting me. She was bracing for what came next. And then just as my fingers closed around the metal, the door unlocked itself from the inside. A soft click, quiet, intentional. Like the man behind it was finally ready to step out and finish what she couldn't keep hidden anymore. Her breath caught. Mine didn't. Because this time, I was ready to see him. The door cracked open with a softness that felt obscene. The kind of softness that belongs in intimacy, not betrayal. A faint strip of warm light spilled into the hallway, crawling across the floor toward my feet, like a truth finally deciding to show itself. She panicked first. "No, wait, don't come out," she whispered harshly, twisting her body toward the opening, trying to wedge herself between me and whatever version of him was about to emerge. But it was too late. A shadow moved behind the door, tall and deliberate. Then a hand appeared, a man's hand gripping the edge of the frame, the way someone does when they're deciding whether to step into a storm or shut themselves back in. I didn't move. Neither did she. For a moment, all three of us were suspended in a silence thick enough to choke on. Then he stepped out, not all at once. First the shoes, expensive, polished, unmistakably not mine. Then the pants, dark-fitted, perfectly pressed. Then the torso, a dress shirt half-buttoned, collar. Slightly open skin, flushed the way skin gets after something too intimate, too physical. And finally, his face. Confidence. That was the first thing I saw. Not guilt. Not shame. Just a man who looked like he expected this moment to happen eventually. His eyes flicked to her first, not me, as if checking whether she was okay. That alone told me everything. She wasn't protecting herself from me. She was protecting him from what I might do. He gave her the slightest nod, a silent reassurance lovers use when word might break the illusion. And that nod cut deeper than anything he could say. My wife leaned toward him without realizing it. A type of gravity you don't fake. A type of closeness that had been practiced, repeated, perfected. She cared where he looked. She cared how he breathed. She cared what he felt. And she hadn't cared about those things with me in a long, long time. He finally turned to face me. "John," he said, voice steady. The same voice that whispered my name in the dark. The same voice she tried to hide behind a door. The same voice she had let into the parts of her life I thought belonged to us. He didn't flinch. He didn't break eye contact. He didn't even pretend to be afraid. He stood there like a man stepping out of someone else's marriage, with the quiet arrogance of someone convinced he belongs here more than the husband does. My fingers curled, not into fists, into something emptier. I studied him. His age, his posture, his clothes, his calm, all untold me the same story. He wasn't a stranger she fell into by mistake. He was a choice she made with intention. She finally broke the silence. "John, please just let me talk." "Talk," I said. She blinked, surprised I agreed so easily. "I didn't mean for this to happen," she whispered. He looked at her. The look of a man who knew that was a lie. The kind of lie people repeat to comfort themselves, not to comfort others. "You did," I said softly. She swallowed. "John." "You meant for it when you opened the door for him 3 months ago. You meant for it when you took your ring off tonight. You meant for it when you told him to hide because you knew I'd be home soon." Her face crumpled, but again, not from guilt, from being exposed. He stepped half an inch closer to her, not touching her, but close enough that she instinctively matched his breath. And I realized something devastating. They had a rhythm I was never a part of, a rhythm built in secret hours, a rhythm born behind a closed door I wasn't meant to open. She whispered, "John, I'm sorry." "No," I said. "Well, you're sorry." I found out. Not that it happened. I could see the truth hit her, not because she disagreed, but because she couldn't argue with it. He exhaled through his nose, annoyed. Not at her. At me for dragging out a conversation he didn't care to be part of. Then he spoke, voice crisp. "You should let this go, John." The audacity of it floated in the air like something foul. She turned toward him, sharply. "Please don't," she whispered. But he ignored her. "You're hurting her by standing here," he said. "Hurting her." I repeated, "Yes." His tone was calm, almost instructional. "She didn't want you involved in this. She didn't want you to see her like this." I stared at him, letting the words settle. "You mean," I said slowly, "she didn't want me to see her with you?" He didn't respond, which was response enough. She stepped closer to him, voice trembling. "Stop, please. You're making this worse." "For who?" I asked again. She looked away. He didn't. And that difference, that tiny, lethal difference, told the whole story. He wanted this confrontation. She didn't. He wanted the truth to be out. She wanted one last attempt to shield the pieces of her image that had survived. And then in the quietest voice she had used all night, she said something that tore the floor out from under me. "John, I didn't mean for you to find out like this. Not if you found out. I didn't think you'd find out. But the way you found out." She had already accepted the outcome long before I ever touched the doorknob. I absorbed her words slowly, letting them sink into the hollow places her affair had carved into me. Then the writer reached into his pocket, calm, steady, and pulled out something small, metallic, familiar. A key. Not just any key, a copy of our house key. He held it between two fingers like it was nothing, like it was obvious, like he belonged here. Her breath caught. My heart didn't. Because with that single gesture, everything changed again. The key dangled between his fingers like a verdict, simple, metallic, merciless. It didn't sparkle. It didn't gleam. It just existed quietly, the way most devastating things do. He didn't say a word. He didn't have to. That sliver of metal told me more than any confession she could have forced out of her trembling mouth. He had a copy of our house key, not the old one, not a spare hidden under the porch years ago, not a duplicate made by accident. No, this was new. Fresh edges, clean cut, not a scratch. He had been coming here, often, comfortably, boldly. My wife was the first to break the silence. "Give that to me," she whispered, stepping toward him. Hand extended, voice cracking in a way that wasn't fear. It was panic. Real panic. The kind of panic that only appears when the truth jumps faster than the lie can keep up. He didn't hand it to her. Instead, he slid his hand back, tucking the key into his palm, keeping it away from her, like a man holding something that belonged to him, not to her, and not to me. I said, "Give it." She repeated louder this time, but he shook his head. "It's too late." She froze, and the hallway shrank. He wasn't talking to her. He was talking to me. He was telling me calmly, confidently, that the line I thought still existed between my home and his presence had been erased long before tonight. I spoke slowly. "How long have you had that key?" She turned sharply toward me. "John, don't." "How long?" Her shoulders collapsed. Her breath wavered. And finally, very quietly, she said, 6 weeks. My vision didn't blur. I didn't sway. The world didn't spin. No, everything became sharper, colder, almost painfully focused, like every detail of the house carved itself into perfect clarity just to show me how blind I'd been living inside it. I nodded once, calm, controlled, too calm. He took one step forward. She gave it to me, he said. Not defensive, not accusing, just factual, as if he were explaining the weather. She didn't give him anything. She snapped, stepping between us again. She made a mistake. He raised a brow. That's not what you told me. Her lips tightened. She didn't deny it. He continued, you said you were tired of living like you were sneaking around. You said you wanted him to stop showing up unannounced. You said you wanted to feel... Stop! She said it so sharply it cut the air. You said he pushed on anyway. You wanted this to feel like home again. Her eyes fluttered shut as if the words physically hurt. Home. Again. He wasn't talking about my home. He was talking about theirs. The one they built behind my back, while I was still living in the version where she kissed me every morning and pretended her heart wasn't elsewhere. I felt something slip inside my chest. Not break, not shatter, just quietly detach. How many times has he been here, I asked. She hesitated long enough to confirm the worst. 5. 6 times. He corrected her immediately. 12. The number hit me like a hammer made of ice. 12, I repeated. Don't listen to him, she said quickly. He's exaggerating. I'm not, he said. I counted. Her face drained of blood. He counted because he cares, he added softly. That sentence landed like a blade in the hollow of my chest. Not because he said it, but because she flinched. Not from disgust, not from anger, but from the truth. He did care, and she knew it. And she cared that he cared. I stepped back and leaned against the wall, needing something solid to keep me upright. What did you do in this house? My voice came out quiet. Dangerously quiet. She shook her head fiercely. John, nothing happened here. We only talked. I swear we only... You're lying, he said, without turning to her. She spun toward him, eyes wide in horror. Why are you even talking? She hissed, grabbing his arm. Why are you making this worse? He pulled his arm back, unbothered. I'm not making it worse. I'm telling him the truth. He deserves that. It was almost grotesque, the way he stood there, calmly arguing for honesty, while both of them had built this entire situation on secrecy. What truth? I asked. He held my gaze. Unflinching, bold, almost sympathetic in the sickest way. We didn't just talk, he said. She gasped. Her hand flew to her mouth. Don't, she whispered, voice cracking. Not like this, please. But he kept going, patient, precise. The first time was in the car. The second time at the hotel. The third time... Stop, she cried, tears spilling over. Please stop. He didn't. The fourth time was here. My heartbeat didn't speed up. It stopped. Silence pressed into the hallway like a physical weight. It had a temperature, freezing, bitter, metallic, the kind of cold you feel only once in your life when someone hands you the truth, unwrapped, unfiltered, undefended. She collapsed against the doorframe, covering her face with both hands. John, I swear it wasn't supposed to, but I wasn't looking at her anymore. I was looking at him, and for the first time he looked away, not because he was ashamed, but because he knew what he'd said was final, irreversible. The kind of truth that doesn't leave room for forgiveness. I exhaled slowly, letting the ice settle in my lungs. The fourth time, I repeated quietly. In my house? In your bed, he corrected gently. Her scream shattered the hallway. No, don't say that. But he had already said it. And the world inside me shifted again, this time into something darker. Something's steady. Something done. Done. She froze, hands trembling, eyes filled with panic. That finally wasn't about him. For the first time tonight, she was afraid I would leave. And that fear came far too late. For a long moment, no one spoke. Not him, not her, not me. The only sound was her breathing. Shallow, broken, uneven. The sound of someone who finally understood the trauma wasn't coming. It had already arrived. She looked at me the way a person looks at the wreckage of something they once swore they'd protect. Eyes red, hands shaking, chest rising too fast. But behind all that panic, there was something colder, something she tried desperately to hide. Attachment. Not to me, to him. She cared what he said, how he said it, whether he stayed, whether he left. And that truth hit harder than any confession she could have given me. I straightened, finally finding my voice. Look at me, I said quietly. She didn't. She kept staring at the floor, at her shaking hands, at the space between us, anywhere but my eyes. The way guilty people do when the person they betrayed is still standing. Look at me, I repeated. Slowly, painfully, she lifted her face. Her eyes didn't hold love or remorse. Only fear, the kind you feel when the lies you depended on finally run out. Did you love him? I asked. Her lips parted in a tremor. John, don't ask me that. I'm asking. She shut her eyes tight, as if the darkness behind them could erase the truth waiting on her tongue. And then with a voice that barely made it past her throat, she whispered, I don't know. Not no, not a denial, not even hesitation. Just a quiet admission that she'd let herself feel something enough that she wasn't sure where her heart belonged anymore. He stepped half a step closer to her. Not to protect her, but to be near her. As if pulled by a gravity I was no longer part of. She didn't move away, and that hurt more than anything. I looked at him. What do you want? I asked. He didn't blink. He didn't shift. He didn't justify. I want her to be honest, as he said. She flinched. He wasn't talking to me. He was talking to her. The same calm, controlled tone he'd used behind the door. The same tone you use with someone you've been close to, in ways words can't fully describe. She whispered his name, not mine. Her voice wrapped around his name like it had been practicing it in the dark, in moments I would never know about. He watched her with quiet certainty. This isn't my house, he said. This isn't my marriage. But I'm not leaving until you tell him the truth. Her chest rose sharp, probably like she'd been stabbed. Please don't do this, she whispered. Not like this. He tilted his head. I won't lie for you. A sob caught in her throat, not because he was cruel, but because he wasn't. Because he wanted clarity. Because he wanted her to choose. I stepped back 1 inch. Did you choose him? I asked. Her eyes darted between us, the man she married and the man she shouldn't have let in. She didn't answer. Which was an answer? He reached out his hand, slow, deliberate, waiting, not touching her, not pulling her, just offering it, palm open, waiting for her to decide what part of her life she wanted to stand in. Her breathing collapsed. "Don't," I whispered. Her eyes shot to mine. For the first time, I saw something real. Not love, not devotion, but guilt. Guilt that came too late. "Don't do this," I said softly. "John," her voice cracked. "Please don't make me." "I'm not making you do anything," I said. "I'm watching what you've already done." Her knees weakened. Her hand hovered, not toward me, toward him. She looked at the floor again, as if hoping it would swallow her whole. He didn't rush. He didn't speak. He just held his hand there steady, certain the way a man does when he knows the decision has already been made long before tonight. Her fingers shook violently. "Don't," I whispered again. My voice broke without sound. "Please." Her body leaned forward barely, but enough. The slightest tilt, the smallest confession of where her heart had drifted. Her hand touched his, softly, gently, as if that touch had been waiting behind every lie she told. My chest hollowed out. She didn't pull away. He wrapped his fingers around hers, slow, careful, the way people do when they're not stealing someone else's wife. They're taking back someone who was already theirs. Her entire body exhaled a quiet, devastating release, like she had been holding her breath for months, and finally let it go. She didn't even look at me. That told me everything. I stepped back. She noticed the sound my foot hitting the floor, and only then did she look up with wide, terrified eyes, realizing what she had just done. "John, wait!" But it was too late. I'd already seen it, already felt it, already understood what this moment meant. She didn't choose him in that second. She had chosen him long before tonight. This was simply the moment she stopped pretending otherwise. He squeezed her hand gently, not possessively, not triumphantly, just with quiet acknowledgement that the truth was finally out. And she squeezed back. My throat tightened, my vision sharpened. The house felt smaller. Then, as if the universe wanted to bury the last remnants of denial beneath concrete, her phone, still face down on the table, lit up again. Another message. From him. Sent before he even stepped out of the room. "If he comes home early, I'll be here. Just tell me when." Her breath collapsed. His jaw set. And I knew with chilling clarity, this wasn't an accident. This wasn't temptation. This was arrangement. For a few seconds, none of us moved. Her hand was still inside his. His fingers were wrapped around hers. Steady, familiar, practiced. And I stood there, watching the kind of touch that only happens after months of secret moments that don't belong to me. She pulled her hand back finally, as if remembering she should, but the damage was done long before skin met skin. The message on her phone glowed like a knife. "If he comes home early, I'll be here. Just tell me when." She snatched the device from the table and pressed it to her chest like she could hide the light, hide the meaning, hide the fact that her betrayal had a schedule. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't step closer. I didn't ask the questions that begged to be asked. Instead, I said 4 simple words. "Tell me the truth." Her breath stalled. He didn't speak. He didn't interrupt. He just watched her with a stillness that told me he knew the truth already, and that whatever she said next would either destroy me or destroy the version of herself she'd been clinging to. Her throat tightened, her lips parted. But she couldn't look at me. "Look at me," I said, slowly, painfully. She lifted her eyes. "Did you plan this?" I asked quietly. The question hit her like a blow. Not because it was wrong, but because it was right. "John, I didn't." "Did you plan this?" Her hands trembled violently. A tear fell, one single tear, the kind people cry when they realize the only way out is through the truth. And then she whispered, "Not at first." The hallway swayed again, that dangerous, slow kind of sway where the world doesn't collapse. "But your foundation does." I steadied myself. "Explain." Her voice was thin as thread. It was just messages at first. Checking in, catching up. Nothing serious. "Nothing serious," he said under his breath, almost amused. She shot him a sharp look, the look of someone begging their lover not to make it worse. He didn't care. He'd already accepted this moment. He didn't fear the truth. She did. I took a step closer, not threatening, just existing in the space she'd been keeping me out of. "What changed?" I asked. Her breath came out like a confession trying to escape on its own. He remembered things about me," she said quietly. "Things I forgot someone could remember." I stared at her. "He listened when I talked." She continued. "He asked about my day. He noticed when I was tired. He made me feel like, someone was paying attention again." Her voice cracked. "I didn't have that with you for a long time." The words weren't shouted. They were not sharp. They were soft. And softness hurts more sometimes because softness is honesty stripped of excuses. I swallowed hard. "So you chose him?" I said monotone. "No," she cried quickly. Too quickly. "John, I didn't choose anyone. It just what I asked. Just happened." "No?" She trembled harder, and her voice dropped to a whisper. "It didn't just happen." I said nothing. She kept talking, maybe for me, maybe for herself, maybe because she knew silence would condemn her faster than any confession. "I let him in," she said, her voice barely audible. "I let him get close. I let him be there. I let myself feel things I shouldn't have felt. And I didn't stop it because I didn't want to." The knife twisted deeper. She looked at me finally, directly, painfully. "I didn't cheat because I was drunk. I didn't cheat because I was lonely one night. I cheated because somewhere along the way, I stopped choosing us." Her words echoed in the walls I thought we built together. He stepped forward, then not aggressively, but with a certainty that made everything worse. "She didn't fall," he said quietly. "She walked." Her breath hitched. "Please, don't." "It's the truth," he said. She turned to him, eyes burning. "Not like this. I don't want him to." "He deserves to know," he said firmly. "And you deserve to stop pretending." Her knees buckled, the weight of months crashing into her all at once. She grabbed the edge of the table to keep herself from falling. "Stop," she whispered, voice breaking. "Please stop." He shook his head. "No. You said you were tired of choosing in the dark." She covered her face with both hands. "I didn't want him to get hurt," she said through her fingers. I stepped closer. "Then why did you bring him into our home?" She lowered her hands slowly, tears streaking down her face. "Because this house never felt like mine anymore," she whispered. "And I wanted something to feel like home again." Her honesty scorched, It burned through bone. I stared at her. The woman I swore to protect. The woman I shared 20 years with. And realized she had built a second life layered beneath the first, like a shadow that learned to walk on its own. "When did you stop choosing me?" I asked. A long silence, a breath, a tremor. Her voice was almost gone when she answered, "The night you forgot our anniversary." And he remembered. My chest hollowed. She continued, unable to stop now. "You brought home takeout that night. You didn't even notice I dressed up for you." He sent flowers. He wrote a long message. He showed up outside to make sure I wasn't alone. And that was the first time I realized I wasn't waiting for you anymore. Her confession landed like a final blow. I felt something inside me fold into itself, a quiet implosion, the kind that ends things without sound. Then she whispered the worst truth of all. "I didn't lose my feelings for you, John. I gave them away." The hallway dimmed. The air vanished. I didn't move. Couldn't. He stepped behind her, not touching, not pressing, just standing close enough that she felt him. There, steady, present, chosen. And she let him. That small permission, that silent acceptance was its own betrayal. Then, as if fate wanted to bury the moment deeper, his phone vibrated in his pocket. He pulled it out casually. A calendar notification. She saw it and froze. I looked at the screen. A single event title glowed. "Pick her up Friday, 8 p.m. Park behind the house. Scheduled, weekly, repeating." Her breath collapsed. My heart didn't. Because in that moment I realized it wasn't just infidelity, it was a routine. The calendar alert kept glowing in his hand like a quiet confession. "Pick her up Friday, 8 p.m. Park behind the house." Repeating. Weekly. Routine. She stared at the screen like she'd just been caught stepping into her own thoughts. Thoughts. She never planned for me to see thoughts she only shared with him. She whispered, "Turn it off." He didn't. Her voice cracked. "Please just turn it off." He finally tapped the screen, but he didn't put the phone away. He kept holding it like proof, like permission, like a reminder that whatever I thought still existed between us didn't. I breathed out slowly, not in anger, in disbelief, in a grief I could feel behind my ribs. "You planned nights?" I asked, my voice thin. She shook her head fast, too fast. No, John, that's not what you think." "What do I think?" I asked, stepping toward her. "That my wife had standing appointments with someone who wasn't her husband." Her hands flew up to her face again. She pressed her fingers into her temples like she wanted to crush the memory out of existence. He took half a step toward her, protective, instinctive. And that alone told me everything. He wasn't the mistake. He was the habit. "John," he said, his tone strangely controlled, "you need to calm down." I turned my head slowly toward him. "I'm calm," I said. He opened his mouth as if to argue, then stopped. Because he saw it too. My calm wasn't calm. It was detachment. A hollowing. A quiet before something breaks, not loudly, not violently, but permanently. She reached for me then, as if remembering too late that she was supposed to try to save something. "John, please." I stepped back. She froze like I'd slapped her. "Don't," I said quietly. "Don't touch me. Not after everything I've just heard." Tears spilled down her cheeks. Not loud sobs, but silent ones, the kind that look like honesty, but arrive long after honesty would have mattered. "You don't understand," she whispered. "I'm trying to," I said, but you're giving me pieces and answers. He exhaled sharply, turning to her. Just tell him the truth, he murmured. Otherwise, this will drag on all night. She shot him a glare, terrified, desperate, pleading. Stop helping, she hissed through clenched teeth. You don't know how to. I know exactly what you told me. He said, I'm not going to hide it dead for you. She trembled. Her whole body trembled. Don't, she whispered. Please. Not this part. My heart sank. What part? I asked. She shook her head violently. No, please, John. I can explain it better. Not him. But he didn't stop. He looked right at me. You asked when she stopped choosing you, he said. You deserve the full answer. Her hand shot toward him, grabbing Karit's arm. Please, don't do this. He pulled his arm away gently, not coldly, like a man refusing to participate in lies. She chose me before the anniversary, he said. Her knees buckled. No, she covered her mouth with both hands, shaking her head, like she could undo the words by refusing to hear them. My voice scraped out of me. Before the anniversary, he nodded. 2 months before, I felt my stomach twist, fold, burn. 2 months before our anniversary. 2 months before the night she dressed up. 2 months before she waited at home while I worked late thinking I was building our life. 2 months before I made the mistake that she used as the reason for everything after. I swallowed hard. What happened 2 months before? I asked. She shook her head violently, whispering no. No, no, no. Under her breath, like a chant, meant to stop a bleeding wound. But he answered. She told me, he said quietly, that she felt something for me. My vision blurred, then sharpened. My lungs tightened. My hands went numb. She collapsed into the wall, sliding down until she was sitting on the floor, head in her hands. Her whole body curled like she could fold herself into nothing. Please, she sobbed. Please stop talking. He didn't move. She said he continued that she hadn't felt anything like that in years. Her cry broke, then sharp, wounded, desperate. Stop! But it was too late. The truth was already in the hallway with us. I crouched down slowly in front of her. Not to comfort her, to look at her, really look at her. Without the illusions, marriage builds around two people. Is that true? I whispered. She nodded barely. A tiny, broken nod that shattered everything. My voice was quiet. You loved him before you cheated. No, she cried, shaking her head. No, John, I didn't love him. Just what? I liked how he made me feel. Her voice was small. I liked being wanted. I liked being seen. I liked not being invisible anymore. Invisible. The word hit harder than betrayal. She kept talking rapidly, through sob, words pouring out, because she knew it wouldn't save her, but she needed to say them anyway. You never noticed me anymore. You never asked if I was okay. You never cared when I cried in the bathroom. And then he came back into my life, and he remembered things, and he listened, and he looked at me like I wasn't fading. Each sentence cracked a bone in my chest. And I didn't know how to stop, she whispered. I didn't want to stop. The room spun, not fast, just enough to make every breath feel like swallowing glass. He stepped closer, not to gloat, not to claim, but with a kind of quiet certainty. Johnny said she wasn't trying to hurt you. I looked up at him. She wasn't trying not to, I said. He didn't argue. She sobbed harder. Then suddenly something changed. Her phone vibrated again. All three of us froze. She looked at the screen, and her face drained. I saw the name before she turned it over. Call from unknown number, fifth time. He frowned. That's not me. She whispered something I almost didn't hear. John. I didn't tell him everything. I stared at her. She stared at the floor. And I understood viscerally that there was someone else involved in the story I thought was only about the three of us. Someone who kept calling. Someone she didn't want him to know about. Someone she didn't want either of us to know about. And for the first time that night, he looked at her in shock. Who the hell is that? He asked. She didn't answer. 'Cause the truth wasn't done with us. Not even close. The phone vibrated again. Unknown number calling. Sixth time. The sound sliced through the hallway like something alive, sharp, unwanted, impossible to ignore. She clutched the phone to her chest as if shielding it from both of us. Even he, the man she betrayed me with. The man. She stood in front of the man she chose. Even he stepped back slightly, confusion settling into his expression. That's not me, he repeated, more firmly this time, more unsettled. She didn't answer. She stared at the floor, like a child caught with something too dangerous to explain. The phone stopped vibrating. Silence. Then a seventh call. Her breath shook. Her fingers trembled around the phone so violently she nearly dropped it. He stepped forward. Tension in his jaw. Who's calling you? He demanded. She didn't look at him. Whose number is that? His voice rose not with jealousy, but with fear. She whispered, I can't. Can't what? He snapped. Can't answer, can't explain, or can't let him know we're together. Her knees wobbled. I stood still, watching everything unravel. Not with anger, not with shock, but with a cold, suffocating clarity that felt worse than any wound. He growled neatly, but me. Who is calling you? She shook her head wildly, eyes filling again. Please, don't ask that, she whispered. Not you. Please. He stared at her like he'd never seen her before. Are you telling me? He said slowly, breath trembling, that there's someone else. She covered her face with both hands. The phone vibrated again, an eighth call. He snatched it from her before she could stop him. Unknown number calling. He looked at the screen, looked at her. Then in a voice that felt like it was tearing out of him, he asked, Who the hell is this? Her eyes dropped, and that silence, that crushing stillness, was louder than any confession. He breathed out, disbelief curdling into something darker. You're joking, he said, shaking his head. You're telling me you were seeing someone else while you were seeing me. I wasn't, she cried. It's not what you think. I think, he roared, voice cracking, that you're not who you said you were. She flinched, shrinking into herself, tears falling uncontrollably. He wasn't angry that she had cheated on her husband. He was angry that she kept secrets from him. Secrets neither of us were prepared for. I stepped forward, voice steady. Answer it. Her head snapped toward me. No. Her voice was tiny, terrified. If you don't answer it, I said, we'll find out anyway. She clutched her stomach like she was about to be sick. The phone vibrated again. A ninth call. He shoved it toward her. Pick it up. She shook her head so hard her hair fell across her face. I can't, she screamed. Why? He shouted. Who is he? She broke. I didn't tell him about you, she sobbed, voice shattering. He doesn't know. He went pale. He doesn't know about me. She covered her face. No, he thinks I'm alone. He thinks what he demanded. She whispered something so quietly. We both leaned in. He thinks I belong to him. The hallway froze. Even breathing felt wrong. He took a full step back from her, like she had become a stranger, wearing her skin. What did you just say? He whispered. She trembled violently. I tried to end it, she sobbed. I ended it months ago. But he didn't let go. The 10th call came in. The screen lit the hallway like a threat. Unknown number calling a 10th time. Her hand shot out instinctively, not to answer, but to hide it again. He grabbed her wrist. You were with him before me. She nodded weakly. Tears falling onto the floor. For how long? He demanded. She whispered. 5 months. He staggered backward like he'd been punched. 5 months. 5 months before him. 5 months while living with me. 5 months of another man knowing her intimately enough to call her 10 times in a row while she was with the second man she cheated with. He whispered, voice hollow. So I wasn't the beginning. No, she cried. I wasn't even the secret. No, I was the replacement. She collapsed onto her knees, sobbing into her hands. I didn't mean for any of this, she cried. I didn't mean to destroy everything. You didn't mean to, he snapped. You had a man calling you 10 times in a row while you were holding my hand. Her cries echoed. Then he turned to me for the first time tonight, not with superiority, not with arrogance, but with something like horror. How long has this been going on? He asked me. I shook my head. I'm learning this with you, I said softly. His jaw clenched. So she was cheating on both of us, he whispered. The truth hung in the air like something dead. She screamed suddenly, raw, primal, and grabbed the phone from his hand. But instead of answering it, she pressed call back. We both froze. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then a low male voice answered. Finally. My blood froze. Her entire body broke into a violent tremble. He stepped closer to her, demanding, Who is that? The voice on the phone spoke again. Calm, familiar, intimate, in a way that made my stomach drop. Are you alone now? The man asked. Is he gone? Can I come by? She covered her mouth, sobbing. The man continued, soft, possessive. You know I don't like waiting. My heart stopped, because I had heard that voice before. Not recently, but long ago, in another part of our life. He whispered her name through the speaker. Her real name, not the nickname I used, not the one she gave to the man beside her. Her full name. And then he said something that shattered the floor under all of us. Tell your husband I wanted to talk to him. The voice on the phone repeated itself, slow and deliberate. Tell your husband I want to talk to him. The hallway seemed to shrink around us. The air thickened. Even the shadows felt like they were holding their breath. She dropped the phone as if it had burned her skin. It clattered against the hardwood floor. The sound, too loud, too sharp. He stared at her, jaw clenched, chest rising hard. You told him about me, he whispered. His voice cracked, not with anger, with fear. She shook her head violently. No, I never. He doesn't know anything about you. He can't know. He grabbed her by the shoulders, panic surfacing through the broken edges of his voice. Then why does he want to talk to your husband? She covered her ears, shaking like she was trying to drown out the entire night. I bent down slowly and picked up the phone. My hand didn't shake. My voice didn't break. Because inside me, something colder than fury had settled. A man doesn't ask to speak to another man's husband unless the story is already darker than betrayal. I pressed the phone to my ear. The line was still open. A quiet breath. Then, John, he said my name with familiarity. Not confidence, not ownership, not rivalry, but with memory. My stomach tightened. Who is this? I asked. A low exhale, almost amused. It's been a long time. He paused. You sound the same. I didn't. But I didn't tell him that. He spoke again. Voice smooth, practiced. Tell your wife to open the door. I froze. Door? What door? I looked around the hallway. There were only 3 doors here, bedroom, study, and the bathroom. My wife suddenly jolted upright, scrambling to her feet, shaking her head. No, please don't, not tonight, please. He heard her panic and chuckled softly. You still panic the same way. Those 6 words destroyed her. She collapsed against the wall, sliding down like her bones had turned to water. The man beside her stepped back, confusion settling into fear. Who is he? He demanded. Who the hell is that? She buried her face in her hands. I tried to end it, she sobbed. I tried, but he doesn't let go. I tightened my grip on the phone. What door are you talking about? I asked. A pause. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. The back door. I'm looking at it. My breath died in my chest. The back door. The one by the kitchen. The one 10 feet away. The one none of us had checked. She screamed. John, don't go, please. Don't! I dropped the phone and ran. The other man followed right behind me, fear now replacing whatever confidence he had swaggered in with. I burst into the kitchen and froze. The curtains by the back door moved slightly, not from wind, but from movement. Someone was on the other side, standing there, watching, waiting. My wife's footsteps staggered behind me, her sobs echoing through the house. No, please, John, don't open it, don't. But this time her fear wasn't for him. It was for me. I stepped closer to the door. My breath fogged the cold glass. There was a silhouette outside, tall, familiar, unmoving. The porch light flickered just enough to outline the shape of a man standing perfectly still. He spoke through the door, his voice perfectly clear now. No phone needed. Open it. My wife screamed behind me. Don't open it. He's not who you think he is. I stared at the shadow. Who are you? I demanded. Silence. Then he said something that turned my spine to ice. I'm the man your wife calls when she's scared. Behind me, she collapsed. Her palms hit the tile. Her body shook violently. No, please, John, please, don't. The other man's voice cracked behind me. What the hell does that mean? He shouted. What does that mean, Anna? But she couldn't speak. She could barely breathe. She reached out blindly toward me, crawling across the floor. John, don't. Please, he's dangerous. Dangerous? She hadn't used that word all night. Not once. Not for the man she slept with. Not for the man she planned nights with. Not for the house key. Not for the hotel. Only for the man outside. I took another step toward the door. The other man grabbed my arm. Don't open it, he warned. I don't know who he is, but the way she's reacting. He won't hurt me, I said. My wife screamed. Yes, he will. I turned slowly to face her. Her face was drenched in tears. Her body curled in on itself. John, she whispered, voice raw. Please, listen to me. He's not someone you can stand up to. The other man swallowed hard. You're telling me he's been calling you all night because he thinks you belong to him? She nodded, trembling. And you were trying to hide him from both of us. She nodded again. And he knows where we live. A whisper. Yes. Everything clicked at once. This wasn't a love triangle. It was a pattern. A rotation. A cycle of secrets she couldn't control anymore. 3 men, 1 truth. And the man outside wasn't someone she cheated with. He was someone she tried and failed to escape. The silhouette took one step closer to the door. I could finally make out his face through the glass, and my heart slammed into my ribs. Because I knew that face. I knew that jaw. I knew those eyes. I knew the way he stood. I knew the quiet threat in his stillness. He was someone I hadn't seen in years, but someone I had once trusted. Very much. My wife let out a sound that wasn't even human. A strangled noise of terror and guilt. He leaned toward the glass and whispered, "Open the door, John. It's time we talk about what your wife didn't tell you." The house fell into dead silence, because the man outside was my brother. My brother didn't knock. He didn't move. He didn't flinch. He just stood there on the other side of the glass, patient, unbothered, like this wasn't the collapse of a marriage, a betrayal of blood and the unraveling of years of silence, all converging in one kitchen. Behind me, she sobbed harder, the kind of sobbing that didn't ask for forgiveness, only for delay. The other man, the one she had chosen, the one she had held, the one she had invited into my home, stared at her like he was realizing he wasn't even the main villain in her story. He was a chapter. My brother was something else entirely. I reached for the door. She screamed again, "John, please don't open it. He's not here for you." That sentence stopped me. Not here for me. I turned my head slightly. "Well, what do you mean he's not here for me?" She shook her head violently, palms flat against the kitchen tile, crawling closer, like gravity itself was dragging her across the floor. "He's here for me," she cried. "He's here because he thinks, because he believes." Her voice collapsed. My brother stared, through the glass mouth, unmoving eyes sharp. The man she cheated with grabbed my shoulder. "John," he whispered, "whatever this is, don't stand between them." Then my brother finally spoke. Calm, precise, too familiar. "Open the door." I turned the lock. One click. She screamed so loudly the entire house shook. "No, John. Please, he'll kill you. Please don't." He won't kill me, I thought. But that wasn't the point. I opened the door. Cold air flooded in, slicing through the heat of the house. My brother stepped inside without asking permission. He didn't look at me or the other man. He looked directly at her, and she shattered. She curled into herself, pressing her forehead against the floor, hands trembling like they were trying to hold her soul together. "Get up," my brother said quietly. She shook her head. "No. No, please." "Get up!" She forced herself upright, body shaking uncontrollably, back pressed against the cabinet, like she was trying to disappear into it. He stepped closer, slow, measured, the kind of walk a predator uses when the outcome is already decided. "Why have you been ignoring my calls?" he asked. She opened her mouth, but no words came. "Why," he repeated, "were you with them when you were supposed to be with me?" The other man looked at me horrified. "I didn't sign up for this," he whispered. My brother finally turned toward him. "You didn't sign up," he echoed. "That's right." Then he glanced at me, cold, steady, and everything in my body tightened. Not because of what he looked like, but because of what he didn't do. He didn't apologize. He didn't explain. He didn't justify. He simply said, "John, step aside." I didn't move. He took another step forward. I said, "Step aside." I shook my head. "No." He exhaled once, a slow, irritated breath. "You think this is about you?" he asked. "It involves me," I said. "No," he said sharply. "It involves your house, your marriage, your wife's lies, but you're just collateral." That word hit me harder than any betrayal tonight. Collateral. He pointed at her. She and I had an agreement. My stomach turned. "What agreement?" I demanded. "John," she gasped. Please don't. Please. Don't make him say it. He ignored her. We agreed she would cut him off, he said, nodding toward the younger man. We agreed she would stop lying. We agreed she would tell you everything before it got worse. Before people got involved who shouldn't be involved. My blood ran cold. You knew about him? I asked. My brother stared at me with something between pity and contempt. Of course I knew John. I told her to end it. The other man stepped forward. You told her to end it. Who the hell are you to tell her anything? My brother looked him up and down with slow disdain. I'm Bomb, the one she was with first. Silence. He continued. I'm the one she told about her fights with John. I'm the one she called at night when she said she was falling apart. I'm the one who showed up when she said he didn't see her anymore. And I'm the one, he pointed at the younger man, she used to get away from me. Her entire body folded inward. Stop, she whispered. Please, please, stop. But my brother kept going. Tell them, he said. Tell them why you really ended things with me. She shook her head violently. No, please, I can't. Tell them, he repeated. Her voice broke. Because you started getting jealous, she whispered. You started checking where I was. You wanted keys to the house. You wanted control. And what else, my brother pressed. She sobbed. I was scared. He leaned closer. No. His voice was ice. Tell them the real reason. Her breath hitched, shaking violently. She put both hands over her mouth, tears streaming between her fingers. He grabbed her wrists and pulled her hands down. Tell them. And finally, with a voice that wasn't even her own anymore, she whispered, because you told me you loved me. The room froze. My brother didn't even blink. And you didn't love me back, he said, right? She shook her head, sobbing harder. He let her wrists go. Then he stepped back a single step, and something changed in his face. Something lethal, something that didn't belong in a home, something that made even the younger man stumble backward. My brother looked at me, at her, at the disaster between us, and he said, she told me she'd never choose me. She said she'd choose you until the end. I stiffened. She sobbed harder. But tonight, my brother continued, eyes narrowing. She wasn't with you. His voice darkened. She wasn't with him either. He pointed at the younger man. She was hiding from me. My lungs tightened. He took one more step forward. Do you want to know the last thing she told me? He asked. I didn't answer. He said it anyway. She told me. His voice sharpened to a blade. If you ever found out about us, she would kill herself. The entire house fell dead silent. My heart stopped, her breath cut off. Even he, the younger man, froze in horror. Then my brother stepped back, turned around, and walked to the door. Before leaving, he said one last sentence. John, take care of her. She'll need someone. It won't be me. And when the door closed behind him, the house became so quiet that even her sobbing felt distant. She collapsed into my arms, shaking uncontrollably. Not from fear, from truth. Because in the end, it wasn't the affairs that killed something in me. It was realizing she had been living 3 lives. One with me, one with him, and one she never survived.